that included language that stated that UC Davis must seek to expand its broad base of programs. And I would like to invite Nona to come up here and answer several questions regarding that and the process. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. In preparation, there were questions that were actually presented to us to answer. At the end, I will have time for maybe one or two questions before I have to leave to attend another function. Okay, the first question that was posed, students who pay $600 per year to ICA, they have kept their promise, how can we break the core principles? In review, SAS and CEI funding amounts to $475 per year, not $600 a year. Now there's SPACE, which is a separate account, which is for facilities. That one incorporates a number of facilities at $90 per year. Now the SAS and CEI comprises 59.5% of our actual operating budgets overall in ICA. CEI funds $4.7 million in our scholarship account. We pay an additional $1 million in back funding of that because of the CPI that has not passed in the last 3 out of 4 years, which has totaled another $700,000. Now that vote for approval is done by 6 students. And for the last 3 out of 4 years, that has not been approved to be passed. For 10-11, the amount that we'll have to back fund because of the 32% increase in fees is $1.6 million. So in essence, the funding for scholarships will total $6.3 million as of next year, only of which 4.7 has been funded. Unfortunately, the campus had declared a financial emergency. You guys have all heard this, of $150 million. As much as we try to avoid discontinuing programs, this is the 3rd year of cuts. For the first 2 years, we did all that we could within ICA to not discontinue sport programs. Before this hit came upon us, we had a $300,000 hit, which we had to absorb. And we absorbed that in a multitude of ways. Sports had to fundraise. We discontinued publications. We discontinued media guides. We cut staff numbers. We took vans instead of taking buses, which actually is a student welfare issue, which we had hoped not to have to do. But in order to save the sports that we had, those were the drastic measures that we were taking. Core principles. In 2002, when this was passed, we were continuing expansion of opportunities for the underrepresented sex because we were working with Prong 2 of Title IX compliance. Prong 2 states that you have to continue offering opportunities if you're not meeting one of the other 2 prongs. Right now, we are at Prong 1 compliance, which means that proportionality is where you are focusing. And proportionality for your student-athlete population has to match what the university's undergraduate population is. We have an agreement that we have to be within 1.5% of what the university's undergraduate population is, men to women. Women on this campus are the underrepresented sex, so that's where we have to focus our compliance. When we last had us work, which was field hockey last year, as stated, we were Prong 2 compliance. When you reach a certain point and you no longer have the financial sustainability to add sport programs, you have to focus on one of the 2 other prongs. The 3rd prong is not a functioning prong for campuses, which basically states that you have to survey whether or not there is an interest. That one is not totally measurable or totally accurate. So prong 1 is considered the safe haven. There are different campuses that measure prong 1 compliance in different ways. Okay? For us, it's 1.5%. We've also been asked, why is it unacceptable to keep 27 teams if coaches are willing to be underfunded in order to save opportunities for the future? Of course, there's no short answer for this. We were in conversation with coaches throughout the process, and there were some coaches who were willing to do drastic measures in order to save all 27 sport programs. That included drastic cuts, coaches' salaries, decreasing grant aid, but it has to be understood that there's Title IX compliance that goes along with all of that. You cannot have a certain subgroup of your sports receiving grant and aids at levels that are not measurable within 1% of the overall grant and aid allotment. So drastically tiering programs to keep them alive is not an area in which would be sustainable over time. It was not a temporary solution, it would be a permanent solution, because our cuts have not been temporary cuts. They have been permanent cuts. There are also other factors that play into it. Title IX, conference affiliation, NCAA minimums that go into play. You know, as well as all the relevant referendums that have been passed and have been spoken of. All proposals that were submitted were reviewed for Title IX compliance. Many of those proposals were not in compliance. We were not in a position where we wanted to drastically tier or tier at all. That is one of the core principles. We also know that when backs are up against the wall, there are those who would rather do drastic means to save opportunities than necessarily comply with what the law is. We are not going to go in that direction. We will comply, we have complied, and we will continue to comply with Title IX compliance. And again, these are not the first cuts that we have taken in ICA. This has been a 3-year process. This just happens to be the largest one and the one that has gotten the most attention. Previous to this, we were able to save sports by not putting tiering into place and also by cutting in various areas. Along with that, ICA has to absorb another $400,000 in cuts, which saved another 1 to 2 sport programs from being discontinued. Third question, what exactly would it take to save these 4 teams? Our programs have been as fiscally responsible as possible over the years. That is one thing that I have been remarkably impressed by since my time here days, which has been a very short 3 years. We have done things as a team to make it work. This is a time now where, unfortunately, we had a $1.4 million deficit on the books. We have just incurred another big hit financially that has accumulated, which has forced us to do things that we never thought we would have to do. The athletic director has helped to build this program of 27 sport teams. The last thing he would want to do is discontinue any. I have been a part of programs that have had to discontinue sports. I know the impact that it has. I myself was a student athlete, so I know what it brings to the table. But there are often times where, unfortunately, you're forced into a situation where you have no other alternatives. We've been asked, why can't we fundraise from year to year? Sustainability is what we are looking for. We are in an emotional time right now where we have individuals who are willing to step forward. But we cannot afford sustainability with 1 year-to-year promises. There are campuses that have regretted that they have done that, and there are campuses that are still trying to work through that. But recruiting student athletes onto a program that has year-to-year life does not address the issue. Also, what's different, as you can tell, since we have not been funded for the last 4 years, the cohort of students who are here currently would not be the cohort of students who are going to be here the next 4 to 6 years. In 2002, referendums were passed to help save sport, or before that, to help save sport programs. As you can tell, the clientele for approving those ones now isn't in place. The clientele for saying we want to operate still without any grant aids, without any operating budget, without our coaches being funded, will not be present. Again, the clientele changes. How can we save our sport? If we have people who want to donate, what will it take? In actuality, because of Title IX compliance and our proportionality, it's not just saving one sport. It's saving the sport on both sides with relative numbers to keep proportionality intact. So again, sustainability, it takes endowments. Okay? And depending upon what your total operational budget is, grant and aids, coaches' salaries, coaches' benefits, operating budgets, you're looking for approximately $7 million for the endowment, but you've got to operate that first year without any interest coming in, so now you've got to add on whatever the cost is, say, let's say $350,000. So now you're at $7.35 million.